I'm not ready yet.
I need time to prepare that. Do that. I need more time. I need more time.
I'm not ready yet. ready yet.
I need time to prepare that.
I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet.
I need time to prepare that.
Hey guys, what you just saw was me beating a level 70 Keystone Dungeon, which is incredibly long, and the boss fight typically is pretty drawn out and can be quite tough. But with this build, I think it's actually quite doable for everybody. I'm not a professional YouTuber, so I don't have any cool intros or anything like that. I'm just going to do the basic build that I've come up with. I've seen some stuff close and a few variants, but nothing quite like what I've put together, and I just kind of want to go through and explain top to bottom the strengths of this build and kind of how to spec for it, how it works, and the thought behind it. Basically, this is an arc lash build, which is going to come over here. Let's go to our skill tree. We're going to run arc lash maxed out. That's our primary source of damage. We're going to reset our cooldown with that ability. We're also going to have a crit chance, because this build is all about a few things. We want to maximize attack speed, basics attack speed, which is another category, crit damage, crit chance, lucky chance, lightning or shock, crit chance and crit damage. All those things are going to go into buffing. Also, we're going to be putting a lot of crowd control on enemies. So any type of crowd control buff, and we're going to be in their face, so being close to them, close range buff, put that into your build. And I'll go through the gear at the end just a little bit. This build does not require gear for it to be viable, but the gear does buff it and make it stronger and stronger, and we'll get into that. So that's our primary source. You see I did put a point here into Firebolt. This is for our enhancement. We get 2 enhancements as a sorceress, or enchantments. One of them is Firebolt, and what that's going to do is it's going to basically make everybody we damage burn. So we're not doing a ton of burn damage, but everybody we hit burns, and there's a bunch of multipliers we're going to be putting together to stack damage to people that are burning. The other one I run is Fireball as an enchantment, because basically when you kill one enemy, they blow up and it just causes this chain reaction, and it's visually pretty cool. I've seen a few people run this one, Arc Lash enchantment, and basically what that does is when you use a cooldown, it stuns enemies for a little 3/4 of a second. My thought on that is we're using a Frost Nova ability, and if an enemy's already frozen, who cares if they're stunned, right? But we'll get into that here later. So here's my Fireball, put just a couple points into it. And your points might differ because gear does offer you, sometimes extra points in things. So whenever you come over here, you notice this is our defensive skills. I have gear that gives me 3 points into every defensive skill. So I've got 3 points into Flame Shield. I am not running Flame Shield. I'm running Teleport. I put 1 point into Teleport just so I could unlock the next nodes, so that I could decrease a cooldown and decrease damage. Glass Cannon, you wouldn't be a sorceress without Glass Cannon doing more damage. Also, you want to do this, Lucky Hit, so you have a 15% chance whenever you crit, and you're going to be attacking a lot, and like I said, running a lot of high crit, so you're going to be potentially resetting that cooldown. I've got 6 points into my Ice Armor, and not one of them I put in myself. It's all from gear. But you do want to run Ice Armor. It is a source of your survivability. We don't care about this because this is not a mana-hungry build like some Ice Shards and other builds you see. Shimmering, this one is okay, but basically we're going to be running Frost Nova, and that's going to be freezing people, and they're going to be frozen anyway. So, I guess you could run that if you really, really wanted to, but that would only, I think, really benefit you from the enemies hitting you from a distance. And damage against vulnerable enemies, I guess you could run that if you're having a little survivability issues. And that might be something needed like at really high extreme levels of the game. But, for most intents and purposes, this will be just fun, offensive, and you'll have a blast with it. Frost Nova. You're going to like you saw, you teleport in to a group, or you get on a group, you Frost Nova, you freeze them, you hit them, they're frozen, they're burning, and they're vulnerable. They have and they're crowd controlled, so they have all kinds of just modifiers on top of them that you're doing. We go down to the next node. We're not really running much of this stuff, but we do run Precision Magic. We do have that maxed here just so that we have our crit chance increased. Put 1 point here, if nothing else, just to have a little more survivability, just to put 1 point into having an extra barrier when we do use a cooldown. So when we do teleport, we get a cooldown. When we do Frost Nova, we do get a little bit of a barrier for that as well. So that helps out with a little survivability. Didn't put anything else into any of these other categories. This is where my build differs a little bit from other people. I saw some people running Hydra. To me, that's just a little janky. It's fixed. It's not that great, to be honest. But Meteor is actually really good. You can blow up a boss with it, or elites, and crowds of enemies. Say you're fighting people on the right and people are coming from the left, you can throw meteors off to the left, and what you have is this ability here. It causes immobilization. So those people that are rushing you from the left now, they can't move. They can still attack, but they can't rush at you and be in your face. Also, if you cast a meteor and it hits 3 or more enemies, then there's basically a 30% chance that another one's going to fall in the same location. So even more DPS. This is primarily a shock build, so he did put 1 point into static discharge, but we're not. It's not a crackling energy build, so we only put 1 point there just to unlock this node that we want to definitely. You must max this out. This is every time you stun an enemy, you are going to deal 45% lightning damage to them. This is also very, very important. You want to put 1 point into Inner Flames just to unlock the next nodes. We have Devouring Blaze, max that out, 30% increased critical strike damage against burning enemies. And if they're immobilized, this is increased to 75%. And like I said, so basically anybody that's hit with a meteor is going to be immobilized at 75%. And then we put this here because everybody's burning with our direct skills. So people you're arc slashing left, a whole bunch, left, right, left, right, left, right. You're going to basically have the chance to immobilize them as well. You could put more points into that if you want. That would definitely not be a bad idea because you're going to get that extra buff. We come over to our ultimate. Of course, our main ultimate ability we're running is Unstable Currents, extra attack speed, as well as some crackling energies for a little extra damage. Hitting energy, we're also going to run Coursing Currents, max that out to increase our crit chance as much as possible. Also, after being critically struck, we are going to take less damage, max that out. This one I didn't put any points in. We already have our teleport, and we have 4 dashes on our boots right now, so we don't really need a ton of movement speed. But this one is also very important. Shock skills have up to a 9% chance to stun the enemies for 3 seconds, so you're going to be stunning them. That's huge. Don't want to put a lot into this, but you want to put 1 point into permafrost, not because we're literally the only damage we're doing that is frost or cold is that frost nova. But we want to, but a lot of people are, as you saw, are frozen. So 9% increased damage to chilled enemies and 18% to frozen. Everybody that's frozen is chilled, just by nature of the things, but we're not doing cold damage, so we don't need really any points into that.
Thank you.
All right. So next up, we go down to our ultimate ability, and we are running Veer's Mastery just for extra damage and taking less damage and crit strikes and things of that nature. So that's the basic rundown of the skill tree that we have. We have maxed out all our points from the system, finding Lilith's tomb, Lilith's statues, and all that stuff. So definitely spend your points wisely. Yours might differ a little bit here and there, just because, like I said, I've got pieces of gear that gives me 3 points on all this stuff. So your pieces might, maybe you have something that gives you a bunch of points into Arc Lash, and so you can reallocate yours accordingly. All right, now let's go over here. Paragon. It's kind of complex, but we've only unlocked a couple of the basically a couple of the boards. The first one here we put in is this one is causing increased damage to enemies that are burning. Well, like I said, everybody's gonna be burning, so definitely put that one in. Come up here, go to the next one. This is a legendary node. I'm not even going for it, but I like the rare aspects so much that I bought this one next. This one, is the Burning Instinct, but we're not causing a lot of burning damage. We're not, our primary source of damage is not burning, but everybody is going to be burning. So these are the things we want. We want, extra damage that we unlocked, for enemies that are going to be burning. We're going to come over here. We're eventually going to come back and get this one, more damage to people that are burning. We're also going to try to come over here and get this one later to reduction from elites. I mean, there's some really great, nodes here in this one that I don't even care about the legendary one, but reduce damage from people that are burning. Well, everybody you hit's going to be burning, so this tree is amazing for causing damage and even reducing damage. But before filling that one out as much, I wanted to go ahead and get another board on, and this one, is got this legendary perk that is really good, and it's extra survivability, makes you a lot tankier. Like I said, you're freezing people left, right, and center with your Frost Nova, and this, every time you kill an enemy, it's going to give you 15% of your life as a barrier for 5 seconds. That is massive. That is huge. We don't really care much about a lot of this other stuff. Cold damage. We're not doing much cold damage. We don't care. Potion healing. All right, whatever. We're not going that way. Frigid. Damage reduction from chilled. Well, I mean, they're, you know, who cares? They're either frozen or dead, or they're vulnerable. But we'll come over here. We'll eventually put another node in. I'm gonna have to, you know, go through at that point and figure that out. Everything that is, like I said earlier, that is frozen is inherently chilled. So we'll come over here. We're going to spec this way next, and we're going to cause extra damage to chilled enemies whenever we do get around to that. And that's also on the way to our next glyph to pop out our power just a little bit further. Then we'll look at some different board options and also filling out this board. All right, so let's go over to our character. This build does not require specific gear to make it work, but the gear, and you know, there's honestly pieces of gear that and affixes that I have in my stash that are better than what I have on me, simply, but I'm just waiting because I know I want to put them on later. You know, I don't want to use them in the level 60s at some point. So here's what we got. We have a helmet. This is, you know, damaging an elite gives us a barrier. Yeah, but look, we're getting basic attack speed. We want that. That's huge. Try to get that on your piece of gear. I mean, I could do without the willpower or dexterity or that other stuff, but I want that attack speed, and you know, some form of barrier is nice for a little bit extra survivability. Makes you a little tankier because you are in the fray. This one, you know, gives you that giant bubble every 90 seconds whenever you take damage and you're not healthy. But look at this, ultimate damage. You do pop your ultimate, but you don't need it, you know, unless you're burning bosses or massive elites and things of that nature, or you just got a ton of stuff that you got to deal with. Damage reduction from close enemies. You're in the fray. Take that. Shock skill damage. Take that. You know, all stats. I mean, that's a nice little, you know, thing to have. Come over here. We have lightning skill, crit damage. We also have attack speed. We want to, you know, this is at the bottom end of attack speed, you know, 5.8, you know, and 5.3 is the minimum. We also have increased crit chance against injured enemies. I mean, that's not the best because they're, you know, have to be injured. This is pretty good. Whenever you have 20% increased crowd control duration. So, that's something that's so nice to have. Their stuns are longer, their freezes are longer, their immobilizations are longer, and if they're unstoppable, if you can't crowd control them, then you do more damage. Great. This one I kind of found by accident, this affix, and I've got better percentages definitely in my stash, but basically you get an extra charge of your Frost Nova, and that is just wonderful to have. And so just definitely, you know, use that one if you can get it, and it'll definitely, you know, be nice. But look, damage reduction against enemies that are burning, huge. Damage reduction from close enemies, huge. 3 ranks of meteor, I mean, that's a little bit overkill. I mean, I don't really need it. But also in damage after killing an elite, I mean, that's all right, whatever. You know, it's all going to be fine. But, you know, the big ones are the reductions from close and burning enemies. Come over to the next one. When you hit it, this one is really a great affix. When you hit a crowd control enemy, there's a 50% chance that crowd control effect is going to spread to another enemy. So you freeze somebody, you hit them with a crit, you know, with that, and they're basically going to pass that along to somebody else, freeze them, and it creates like a chain reaction, or with a stun or a mobilization. And so you'll absolutely love it. This one, again, you know, not the best boots in the world, poison resist, whatever. It's the nicest thing about these boots are the evade charges and and that's about it. But you know, so there's room for improvement on this gear. Weapon, intelligence, damage to burning enemies, vulnerable damage, and crit strike damage, huge. And then basic skills, 26% attack speed. I'm also putting gems in my armor that are rubies, just to up my life a little bit, make me more survivable. There's 2 gem options you can use here on your weapon and your focus. You want to use a wand, not a staff, by the way, just because you want that attack speed so you can crit more. The more you can swing, the more you can hit, the more you can crit, the more you can, keep the ball rolling, if you will. But having the extra crit damage against vulnerable enemies, because you're freezing them, they're going to be vulnerable. The other one is you could also crowd control. You can have the gem that you throw in that makes extra damage to crowd control. Either one's fine. The vulnerable is probably a little better for like bosses, and the crowd control is better for like probably ads. But you come over to the focus, crit chance against injureds, okay, but basic skill damage up, basic skill attack speed again up, so you're just swinging so fast. This one is I just think so much fun. It's the meteorites fall, and on impact, you're throwing like 3 meteors every one, and if it hits 3 people, it's another one has a 30% chance of dropping, and so it's pretty cool. But yeah, you want crit chance, more damage to crowd control enemies. Close enemies are taking more damage, and injured enemies are taking more damage. This next ring, if you're standing still, you do more damage ticking up. Honestly, you could switch that off there. I think there's a piece of gear out there that I've had that I might switch off to at some point that allows me to reset defensive cooldowns when you take direct damage every 10 seconds. So that's an option, but you want to have something with like chilled enemies damage, lightning strike, crit damage, vulnerable. But you see kind of what we're going at. We're stacking these forms of damage. This legendary amulet, you're also doing 50% more damage to any enemy that is immobilized, stunned, or frozen, which is going to be dang near everybody that you are hitting is going to have those. I can do without the frost skill damage on this one, to be honest, and the overall damage, multiplier, whatever. But having that, some of these things is really good, and that plus ranks on all defensive skills is really nice. It's just kind of nice quality of life. Let you put your points into other stuff. But you've seen a little bit of the gameplay, unedited, the good, the bad, the ugly, and this is not a perfect gear setup, but it's come together pretty nicely, and it can absolutely shred ads better than anything, and it can, as you saw, like just absolutely melted that level 70 boss that is actually reasonably tough, and it just made him look like a baby. So I look forward to building this thing out a little bit more. I still got like another 31 and change levels left to max everything out, so a lot more Paragon points that can go in, a lot more gear. I'm looking forward to World Tier 4. I'm sure there's some more gear there with even better stats and things, but give this build a go. You've kind of see it in action, and I've kind of explained how it works, and so give it a go, have some fun, and I'll see you guys in the next one.